Good evening all and welcome you all for the month of CodeGenix panel discussion. So this discussion will be how to be successful in IT industry. So before we start the discussion, I would like to introduce our today's session moderator. He is one of our lecturer in Sri Lanka Technological Campus, Mr. 𝗂𝗵 𝗵𝗺𝗍𝗔. He's continue this session for you. And I would like to remind you, we will be using to collect your questions in pool like Slido. So you can see our comment section and you can see our Slido link. So you can go to the link and if you have any questions, so you can put it. So without wasting much time, I would like to invite Mr. 𝗂𝗵 𝗵𝗺𝗍𝗔. Sir, it's chance up to you.
Thank you, Tamira. Good evening, everyone. Let me first welcome all the panelists, Dr. 𝗵𝗵 𝗘𝗹𝗸𝗀, Mr. 𝐈𝐓 and Ms. 𝗔𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀, and also the participants. I think we are very closer to a full house here. So let me introduce the panelists to you. This is going to be 1 hour of complete information sharing and a Q&A session. Information, experience sharing, and Q&A. So let me introduce the panelists to you. Let me start from Dr. 𝗵𝗵 𝗘𝗹𝗸𝗀. He's senior lecturer at Department of Computing Engineering, University of 𝗂𝗑𝗏, and also the head of School of Computing and IT of Sri Lanka Technological Campus. He obtained his PhD from University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia, and his primary expertise revolves around operating systems, microkernel-based systems, the security side of systems, and virtualization. He is a firm believer that computer science and engineering is rather a way of life than just a mere area of studies. And we have with us Ms. 𝐴hESH. He is currently working for 𝗂𝐵𝐿𝐼 at the engineering manager capacity. And before that, he worked for Cisco Labs as a senior technical lead. And he brings a decade of industry experience in designing and developing software for organizations in the USA, as well as in the country, in Sri Lanka. He's also an entrepreneur and a researcher who is very passionate in software engineering. His MSc is in enterprise software architecture from University of Malta. And we welcome Mr. 𝐴hESH to the forum. And we have Ms. 𝗔𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗓𝗃. She's a recent graduate from University of 𝗂𝗑𝗏, Faculty of Engineering. She has served as president of both the Rotaract Club and the IEEE student branch of University of 𝗂𝗑𝗏 for the year 2018 and 19. She is currently employed as a software engineer at Cisco Labs. She took part in Coin's Grand Challenge in 2019 and was able to win the undergraduate division. And actually, she was able to secure one of the biggest grants for a startup obtained by a Sri Lankan student. So that's the general introduction. To kick off the session, I would like to invite Dr. 𝗵𝗵 𝗘𝗹𝗸𝗀 to start with his area of expertise to enlighten the gathering and to give a preamble to the discussion. So it's over to you, Dr. 𝗘𝗹𝗸𝗀.
Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. Am I audible, 𝗂𝗵?
Hello, sound clear? Sound clear?
Yes, Dr. 𝗘𝗹𝗸𝗀, we can hear you.
Okay, so first and foremost, let me on behalf of SLTC, let me thank 𝐴hESH and 𝗔𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀 for accepting our invitation and
sound clear?
Valuable time
Sound clear?
To be with us. today. And I think before I get to this particular topic, I want to make a couple of things clear. Now, the topic of discussion today is to see how we can be successful in the IT industry. Right. So the first question that we should ask ourselves is, what is the IT industry that we have in Sri Lanka? So if you look at where Sri Lanka is heading and the aspirations of Sri Lankan society now, I don't know how many of the students know about this. There's a sort of a umbrella organization called STASCOM, which is kind of a gathering of all the IT firms in the country. And their aspiration is to develop this IT sector to a $5 billion industry by 2025. Right, so that's their ambition. Right, and this is a very sort of a very steep ambition, because if you look at our economy, the Sri Lankan economy, our biggest export has been for a long while tea. Right, that is what you learn when you're in school. But now, of course, government is also coming in. But if you look at it, tea has been there for I don't know, maybe 100 years, and we are making about $2 billion out of tea. Right, and we want to surpass that. And if you look at the time, the time the IT industry has been there in Sri Lanka, it's very, very small, maybe 2 or 3 decades at most. Right, so during that time, it aspires to grow to 5 billion industry. Right, so how do we do this now? In order to achieve this target, we are not a country like India, where we have very large numbers. Right, for example, if you take the Indian higher education system,
Sound clear, ne?
Sound. Is it for me? You can hear me, right?
Yes, doctor, we can hear you, but I think
there was a bit of a noise coming from your side, so probably that's what they're trying to say. So anyway, coming back to what I was saying. So if you take the Indian universities, they have more students than the entire population of Sri Lanka, right? So we can't match those numbers. So how are we going to match this? By having really competitive high-end companies, right? Say, think about where Chaturangi is working. So Cisco is like US's biggest food chain. Right, and the their IT work is developed here in Sri Lanka. Right, and if you take something like, say, London Stock Exchange, we have London Stock Exchange Group operating here in Sri Lanka, and their IT solutions are developed here. Right, so likewise, we have very high-end companies and adding a lot of value. Right, so it's not the quantity that they're focusing on, but the quality. Right, so we are developing high quality products and we are selling it to the world. Right, so this is one of the areas that Sri Lanka is doing really well in terms like we are developing things and sending it to the world. Right, so now if you want to be successful in this particular field, you need to have the right set of skills. Right, so these guys are developing extremely high end, very sophisticated software. Think about London Stock Exchange. If that thing crashes, you're in big trouble. Right, so you need to write good software that would work. Right, so for that, the companies are looking for graduates who are pretty strong in what they're doing. Right, so my view is, if you want to be successful in this context, we need graduates who are very strong in their skills, in their fundamentals. Right, I'll come to this fundamental idea later as well. We want guys who are really, really good in their fundamentals. So the first thing that you need to do if you want to be successful here is take your university education serious. Whatever that you are learning, you will have to practice it. It's not like, the things that you're learning, the things that your lecturers would tell you, it's not for you to, pass an exam. It's for you to survive in this extremely competitive environment. Right. So for me, that's the first part. Take your university life serious. Right, and I think as we go on, we can talk about what opportunities are there and how we can go and so on, and what undergraduate can do in the university to add more value to his profile. But I think for me, that's the first point. We have a very competitive, very challenging, very interesting industry out there, and they are looking for nothing less than the best, right? So to be the best, you need to be extremely serious about your studies, your undergraduate studies, right? So I think that's what I wanted to say at the very beginning. As we go on, we can sort of add, then we can discuss about these points. Johan?
Thank you, Dr. 𝐴𝐵. It's a good introduction for our discussion today. We will, in the second round, we will get back to more details about what you have been mentioning. And now let us move on to Mr. Ahesh Perera to get the introduction into this discussion. So it's over to you, Mr. Ahesh.
Hello, all. Thank you, Johan. I think you all can hear me and see me, right? Can someone confirm?
Yes, Ahesh. We can see you and we can hear you very well.
Right. Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to wish a good evening for you all, as well as to thank Dr. 𝐴𝐵, who gave me this opportunity to join this panel discussion. I can see that there are like around 600 students. 600 maybe. I don't know whether everyone is a student, but maybe like the audience of 600 people are here in this session. I think that's a great opportunity for us to, of course, discussing about the topic being today is how to become successful in the IT industry. So I think Dr. 𝐴𝐵 gave a very good introduction, as well as very good points for me to continue my talk on the same topic, that is quality versus quantity, right? So I think I've been there in the industry like for more than 10 years now, but if we really look at the points that Dr. 𝐴𝐵 highlighted, comparing the students in universities in India, right? So that number is higher than the entire population in Sri Lanka. That's very right. So what we wanted to highlight here is basically the quality versus quantity. If you really look at the companies like 𝗁𝐵, most of the people call is 𝗁𝐵, but it's 𝗁𝐵, and Cisco, MIT, London Stock Exchange, Virtusa. So most of the companies, if you WSO2, I don't want to miss any company name, but what I wanted to highlight here is if you really look at their target audience and their target products, whoever the customers that they're using or consuming their products are in most of the time USA, UK, Australia, kind of very developed countries, right? But each and every company has their engineering organization here in Sri Lanka. So why Sri Lanka? Do they, did they have only Sri Lanka to set up their engineering hub here? It's not the case. It's basically, if you really look at over the past years, right, what we have been delivering from organization as an engineering organization is the key fact that all other new companies, even for small startups to from small startups to biggest multinational very stable companies to come to this small island, right? So that's basically the quality of the work that we've been delivering so far. So I think Dr. 𝐴𝐵 very rightly mentioned that. So you guys, all of the students or whoever is listening to this topic expecting to be successful in this industry, I think are in the right industry. So that's the main thing that I wanted to highlight as a starting point, right? So if you really look at the other side of the world, right? So with the situation right now we are in a very right time to discuss about how this kind of a world level pandemic or whatever situation where most of the industries, most of the areas in most of the countries, even with developed countries, got hit, right, because of this. So this is something that no one expected before, as well as no one planned for, right? So in that case, if you really look at in terms of industry point of view, IT industry, like software industry, one of the very industries that survived in this pandemic as well, because they can work remotely. So if you really look at a couple of examples, even in Sri Lanka, right? So I can take my example as 𝗈𝐿𝐼. So we went to full-time remote, like 100% remote last year, March, as soon as the country announced us to, go for home, and then, came with this lockdown thing. So until this point, we've been working full 100% remote, and not only us, most of the other companies are also doing the same thing. And we have seen over the past couple of months, some of the cases, actually, the productivity has also increased because of that, right? So if you really look at most of the IT companies were in in Colombo, still they are, but at the same time, not everybody working in the company are located in Colombo, right, the city. So most of the people, they can be from down south, from to Kandy, from suburb areas, everywhere in the country, right? But right now, they can peacefully work from home in this industry, delivering the same value, sometimes a larger value than they have been delivering before, because now they are with the families, they don't have to travel, they don't have traffic and everything. They are at their own home with their very comfortable seat, and then they can work, right? And at the same time, they can utilize the rest of the time with their families as well. So, and also that actually has created a lot of productivity increase, as well as a freedom, as well as a very creative mind people to come forward with this environment. So that's one of the other advantage, that you being in this industry, you can be very survivable, as well as you can be successful. So at the same time, I wanted to highlight, if you really look at why come to Sri Lanka, as I said, that was quality, right? That's the quality of the work that we've been delivering. So how are we going to deliver that quality going forward? So right now, the industry has come to a very competitive level, right? So a lot of countries produces software engineers from a lot of universities. They teach a lot of new technologies. So, but being a student in Sri Lanka, and then you're about to, come to this very large industry, and then how do you make sure that you have the right opportunity inside you with the right skill set, right? So I think that is the key point. Before you think about how to become successful engineer in maybe 5 years time, maybe another 10 years time, you have to think about now, right? So how are you going to pick the place or the company or the organization that you are going to work, right? What is your strengths? What is your weaknesses? And then what is your most interesting area that you would like to work? So when you are working in an area that you are passionate about, that doesn't count it as a work, right? It's basically, you are enjoying your life, you are enjoying your time doing things that you like the most, right? So that is where, and that is where the real creativity comes in, right? That is where the real skillful people come into this industry, and then change it to the basically take it to the next level, right? So if I want to, I would like to share a couple of experiences, especially that we are doing, we are having along with the interviews, right? So these days also we are hiring. So most of the companies, throughout the year they do hire, right? Because there are people leaving the company, so then we have to backfill. At the same time, a lot of fresh students are coming out from the universities, even from your university. So at that point, we'll have to make sure that they get the right opportunity, and at the same time, from organization perspective, we have to make sure that we get the right skillful people inside to our company, right? So that's common for everybody. So in that case, how are we going to filter out? So if you really look at as a fresh graduate, you don't have experience, right? There can be students who have done internship with very good companies. So maybe they have done some personal work, maybe they have done some kind of freelance work for some clients. But all in all, in overall, a graduate who is passing out from university, we can consider as very less number of months, maybe couple of months of experience. So that is almost uncountable. But in that case, how are we going to filter them out? How are we going to shortlist them? So what we really look at is basically, I mean, two types of it. One is technical side. We of course we will look at, because you guys are engineers, so you are going to be an engineer in the engineering industry. So it has to be, you have to be have that set of skill set in terms of technically. So at the same time, we are looking at some soft skill side as well. But when it comes to technical skill set, we, as I said earlier, we can't compare people. We can't basically evaluate based on their experience, because they don't have much experience. So in that case, what we really look at is whether you know the fundamental right? So whether you know the basics right. So do you understand the concepts? Do you understand the basic concepts of programming? So when you have a problem, if you only have the basics, or if you only have the fundamentals with you, if you know the core, if you know, for example, if you take like WP concepts or whatever, very basic thing in programming, if you know how that is working right, then only you can apply that to your problem, and then go for the solution. So that is the only thing, I mean, for the most part, that is the only thing that we are looking for from a technical perspective, from an fresher, right? Fresh students who is passing out from the university. So at the same time, we will be looking at some soft skills. That is where you can gain some teamwork skills. You can improve on your communication. When it comes to communication, it's not always the language, right? So usually in this industry, we use English for our business language, because we deal always, most of the time we deal with like European countries or any other kind of countries that they are using English for their usual language. But in that case, we'll also have to talk in English. But English is not the key when it comes to communication. Communication is, how do you present yourself, right? How do you pass your message so that the other person who is listening to you can get the idea right? It's not like, you use a couple of words and, a couple of maybe technical words and you say that, right? It's basically how you structure it, right? How you organize it. And maybe a person, can talk in English very least, maybe will be a good communicator when it comes to talking with the stakeholders, right? So there are a lot of things in those area also. I think with the time, that's the important fact that I wanted to cover in this first session, maybe first round. Maybe based on the questions that you all have, I can add more aspects into that. So I think with that, maybe we can go for the next panelist, Johan.
Thank you, Chaturanga. Let us now hear it from Ms. Chaturangi. I'm sure as a fresh graduate, she has a lot of things to share. So Chaturangi, it's over to you now.
Hi all, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Chaturangi.
Okay. First of all, I consider it as an honor and also a privilege to be here today with you, especially being a fresh graduate, and to share my experience of how I was able to secure a job in IT industry, how I paved my way into the IT industry, and also share my experience during my undergraduate life. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. 𝗚 for giving this opportunity to be here with you today and inviting me to grace this event. That being said, what I want to bring to this session is basically the same as Dr. 𝗚 said and Mr. Ahesh said. You need to know the fundamental skills. You need to know the basics of the 𝗚 principles, let's say, things like that. And also, before getting into the IT industry, being a fresh graduate, if you want to become an employee, first you have to be filtered out through a CV process. Let's say that a company receives more than thousands of CVs. So out of those thousands of CVs, how we are going to stand out? If the only thing that you have to speak out in that CV is the GPA, or what you have been doing in the university life is just the GPA and just the university projects, just the projects that you did under each subject. There's a small chance of you being filtered out through the CV process itself. So what I'm going to talk, or what I'm going to bring here today, is about how to be a strong personality, a strong person in everywhere, while balancing out academic life as well as while doing extracurricular activities. By the depth and the strong organizing skills that I see today through this event, from the day one that I saw with the emails and with the communications that you did with us, I see that you guys have a lot of potential in organizing events like this. That passion or that abilities, as well as while doing the academics, is how you can balance out an undergraduate life. So basically, during my undergraduate life, as said in the introduction itself, I was able to balance it out with my my academics as well as the extracurricular activities. But as Dr. Alkadu said, at the end of the day, what you need to know are the fundamentals. The basics of each and everything that you are doing, whatever the course you are going to follow, whatever the path that you are choosing, that is the best for you. And that being said, choose what you are actually passionate about. It's not about what is the most competitive technology, what is the most leading technology that you see today, which you can land a top job in the industry. That's not about it, because as Mr. Ahesh said, when we have saying in the industry that if you are passionate enough about what you are doing, you're not working a day in your life, because you are doing it with passion. So choose something, an area which you really like and which you really have passionate about. And even when you're doing that project, like even when you are exploring yourself by doing that, do it from the beginning to the end. Like I'll give you a very simple example, like one of my friends in my undergraduate life, one of my group partners. So we have to do a project for subjects in our third year. He was one of my group partners, and he was like, we divided the things that we had to do with ourselves. I was in charge of doing the hardware, and he was building the software part. In there, he did a really good job, and he had that up in a GitHub. So freelancer who happens to be a venture capitalist in Poland, he saw that GitHub repo, and he saw that what he has done during his undergraduate life, and he invested on his idea, and now he's doing a startup based on that. So the opportunities are always there, right? Like that. Do what you like to do from the beginning to the end, finish it, and you can get a lot of experience through that. And while doing that, you can gain the soft skills and the attitudes, the passions, and how to balance your life, the work-life balance, through doing the extracurricular activities. That is the takeaway message that I have to give in this session itself. That's the basic what I have to say in the first session. So I hand over to Mr. Johan.
Thank you, Chaturangi. It's a nice introduction. So with that, with all the three panelists giving us their view of their points of view about this topic in discussion. Now I have picked up one of the very common questions when it comes to students' point of view. Most of the time, students, they come to us asking whether they should be doing software engineering or business information systems, or computer engineering, data science, cloud computing, or networking, or security, things like that. So I would like to direct this question to Dr. Alkadu straight away. Dr. Alkadu, for a student's point of view, I think this is a very, very valid question. what can a student do in order to figure out whether he should be doing software engineering or networking, cloud computing, or anything like that? Or what do you think?
Yeah. So Johan, in fact, I was just going through the questions as well. So by the way, sorry about not switching on my camera. I'm on my mobile phone. There's a power cut. I'm in Kandy. It's raining, and so going back to the question, I think there are a lot of questions about should I be doing data science? Should I be doing cybersecurity? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And so on. I think the main point that I want to highlight is you should do what is whatever that motivates you, whatever that you're passionate about, you should do that, right? It's I think if you select a particular field based on the current job market or the fact that there are enough and more jobs in the market for that particular field, you will not survive, right? For example, think about what Chaturangi was saying, right? So undergraduate, he was passionate about something, so he gave his everything, right? He did a good job, and he did a good job, and he got the rewards for it, right? There is now a potential investor, right? And he can start his own company, right? And maybe build the next big thing, right? So it doesn't really matter what you are doing. So when you want to select what is it that motivates me, what is it that makes me get up in the morning and do something, right? And that something might change from time to time. For example, when I first joined the faculty, I actually wanted to do motor mechanics. I like cars, so I wanted to do mechanical engineering, right? So I like fast cars, so I wanted to do mechanical engineering. And there was an exhibition during our time. There was an exhibition in the faculty, and we were trying to develop something like an ABS, anti-slipping brake system. So this was way back. You didn't really have ABS as standard in modern cars. And then I got sort of interested in electronics, right? So then I decided, okay, ditch mechanical, I want to do electrical. So my bachelor's is in electrical, right? And then once you sort of get into this electronics, you are developing some electronics, and then eventually you come to a point where electronics are no longer sufficient, right? So putting transistors is not going to work. So you want to put a like a CPU and program the thing, right? It's much more convenient, right? So that then I said, okay, I'm done with electronics. Now I want to do computing, right? So likewise, maybe from time to time your passion might change, right? But do what your heart tells you to do. Otherwise, you will not be able to get the maximum out of it. Like even Ayesh was saying, if you are doing what you like, it's not you will not be feeling as if you're doing a job, right? You are doing what you are following your passion, right? So what I recommend every student should do is don't go by these buzzwords. Do a little bit of a study. If you search, there are enough and more sites which explains what each vertical does. Say if it's software engineering, what kind of job roles you have, what will it take, and so on. There are good sites which explains that. So I'm not going to go into details of that because it will take a lot of time. So read about it and then ask yourself, is this my calling, right? Will I be comfortable doing this for another 30 years, right? So if that is the case, then you follow that path, right? So that's my question. That's my answer for it. And I actually want to add a little bit about sort of take a point that Chaturangi was making about her friend. Right. So if you want to survive in this field, it doesn't matter whether it's software engineering, cybersecurity, data science, or whatever. Make sure that you are passionate about what you are doing, and make sure that you say that. Right. So do interesting projects, select projects that you love, and tell the world about it. Right. There are enough and more platforms through which you can tell the world. LinkedIn, for instance, GitHub. Right. So every student, I think, they should have a LinkedIn profile. They should have a GitHub. Right. Say, I think even the like nowadays, like back in the days, it was, you assess a guy based on the CV, right? But typically now you go to the LinkedIn profile, or you go to his GitHub repo and see how they have contributed, right? So like do that. Pick whatever the field that motivates you and work on it. right? So don't think, don't work on it simply to get the degree or simply to get into a job. Work on it because you love it, right? So pick a field that you can do that, right? Pick a field that you are really passionate about, then you'll be all right. Right. So Johan, I think that's my answer for it. Hello, Johan?
Yeah. Just to add a little bit. Yeah, Doctor, I think you can hear me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, just to add a little bit. Yeah, just to add a little bit to that. There is now when you go to the when you basically happen to have a chat with your friends, they basically say that I'm doing software engineering. It's very good. So there are ample opportunities if you do software engineering, and some of your friends might probably say that they're doing cloud computing and it's the new trend, something like that. So basically, an average student, an average candidate who is willing to get into the field of university education, might probably get confused as to which way to go, because they are basically worried about whether their decision would probably get changed.
Yeah.
So your message, as the way we understood, is not to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
So basically, this is about your job. This is about the way you are going to spend your future. So pick something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So I think that's the message for all of us.
Yeah. And also, just to add something to that, I think
all right,
in most of the universities, Johan, you get a chance, right? Even at SLTC, you get 2 years to decide where you want to be. Like you join the IT degrees. We have 4 of them. And like you need to actually say, okay, I want to do software engineering, or I want to do cyber security, data science at the end of the second year. So till that time, you can decide. You can keep it open.
Okay. So that's an advantage. So at the same time, I would like Dr. 𝐴𝐿𝐶𝐴𝐷, I would like to see your view, and other speakers also can join this. How do you see the field of information technology, computing in another 5-10 years time in this country, particularly? How do you see the field of information and communication technology and computing?
So maybe I can take that question, but I have little things to add to the previous answer that Dr. 𝐴𝐿𝐶𝐴𝐷 gave as well, because he was very rightly mentioning about, how do you select to do what you are passionate about, right? So it should be, there's a way that you can think of it. If you really can't distinguish between, let's say, for example, I'll take an example and then explain it. Say, for example, you have data science and then you have data engineering, right? So those are very trendy buzzwords these days, and people, even I have got a couple of inquiries, couple of questions from maybe my friends of friends, and then most of the students, like they are talking about this and they are asking, okay, what do you need to select? Is it data science, or is it data analytics, or is it data engineering? What is that? And if you really look at the course structure in multiple universities, maybe you will find very equal subjects are there, right? Very equal course codes are also there. And then if you really look at the content of the course also, those are very equal. So in that case, the student, the situation of students will get more hard, right? So now you have different names, but the content almost look like the same. And then, but we say different names. So then what would be the future? I would like to couple this question, this answer, couple the two questions with this answer, like how will be the IT industry in next 5 years, as well as how are you going to select your career, right? So again, back to the previous example. So data science and data engineering. So let's say now you are in an interview, right? So then you will be asked questions. So imagine this is kind of a self-test that you all can decide, think about and decide, right? So how are we going to evaluate a person whether this person can solve a problem, right? So most of the times in this IT industry, in software engineering, you will get situations where you need to solve some problems, right? So whether it could be a data science or a data engineer, data analysis, or a person who is doing data analytics. So whoever comes in, you have to solve this problem, right? So in that case, this is kind of a simple way of identifying it, but if you really look at it, it would be great if you can focus your career at the starting point to be an engineer career, right? So if you have data science and data engineering career path, pick data engineering, because at any point you can be a scientist of the data, right? So you can do the science part of it. But if you are a data scientist and if you don't know how to solve problem or how to maybe program or kind of the very basic things that is comes under engineering, right? So then you will be in trouble, right? So you will have you can ace in, you know, all the theories, all the data logics, data patterns, data analysis, everything that you can be master of that. But if you can't really solve that problem, right, if you don't know the fundamentals of engineering to, you know, apply them and, you know, fix that thing that you have in hand, then those theories will come in later, right? So a thinking pattern that you can practice that will be applied to different things as well, right? So if you take my career as an example, I mean, Dr. Alkado maybe remember this, back in the days that I was in the university, I was very popular as a mobile engineer, right? So because I was doing mobile development, that is actually back then we didn't have these smartphones. I started with J2ME, right? Java to mobile edition. So, and then Symbian noise. So those are very kind of old school technologies now. Most of the people that now don't know about it, right? So they only know about iOS and Android, right? So but back in the days, that was the mobile OS that we had. So that was my passion. Every day I was creating mobile app. There was an exhibition in our university back then, and then actually I created a vehicle security system to be controlled by a mobile application, right? So I that was very I mean, if you really look at now with the apps that you have in your hand, in your smartphone, those could be very old school or very small things to do. But at that point of time, we didn't have that technology, right? So that was we had to think about it. How are we going to remotely operate this security system through a mobile phone? So at that point, I started my career as well, a mobile engineer, right? So my first job was a mobile engineer. And then because as Dr. Alkado said, I passionate about it, and at the same time I practice it, I learned it, and then I got my job as well, because that is where I wanted to be. So but at that point I didn't really imagine in 10 years, so like 12 to 14 years time, like maybe I'll be a engineering manager here, right? So that was not the case at that point. But what I wanted to highlight here is, so I mean, even how far that I was able to express myself as a mobile engineer at that point is, if we really consider. So even like very like even now these days, you know, my friends call and ask about some mobile application development. But I think if I recollect it right, the last time I developed mobile application maybe in 2013, right? So after that I moved to backend development, I moved to web development, then I moved to full stack, something like that, right? So that is how this industry is, right? So if I'm answering to the other question, the second question, how would this industry be in next 5 years time? So that is how this industry, right? So you can't be predict what will happen in next 2 years or 3 years time, right? So you can't be ready for that. You can be ready for now, right? You can be ready for now, what you have in your hand, and then what you are passionate about, right? So if you want to do now web development, do it, right? So just focus on that, learn whatever is related to web development and do it. So if the web development is changing in the next 2 to 3 years to a different technology or a different era of programming, you will eventually get there, right? Because you are a full sophisticated web developer at that point. And then the next whenever the next you know, the industry come in, whenever the next era of the web development come in, you will be the first guy to pick it up, right? Because you are the most experienced guy in web development at that point. So now at this point, you can't think about that. So that is how even my career progressed over the last 10 to 12 years, right? So that is how it is. I mean, it will be the same thing in the future as well, because there are a lot of programming new languages coming in. The old school languages are going back, something like that. But at the same time, people, I mean, if you really if you want to hire like C developers now, we still have people, right? We still have people. We still have C developers. We still have very experienced C developers. We have Python developers. We have at the same time we have Go language developers as well, JavaScript developers, the cutting edge technologies. We have them as well. At the same time, we have the old school programming people as well. So that is how this industry is, right? So it doesn't matter whether you can think of what will happen in the next 3 to 4 years. Now learn whatever that you are passionate in and then start a job in that area. So in that, whenever that industry is moving to a different angle or a different path, you will be, of course, going ahead with that line. So that is I think that is the answer that I want to give to that, both of the questions.
Okay, thank you. Chathurangi, you just completed your undergraduate studies. So at your time, during your time, what sort of idea you had about this issue? When you were starting, what was the main reason for you to pick up what you picked up?
So to give an answer to you, I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Just tell us, am I breaking?
Yeah. Okay. Can you?
Okay, I'll make it slow. Yes. During your time, how was your experience like? What was the reason behind for you to pick up what you actually picked up?
Okay. So basically, I'll be adding to what Ahesh was telling about. I got the fundamentals, like as Dr. Alcado said, I got the fundamentals from my second year onwards about C language. Of course, we are learning the C language and we are getting the fundamentals of the basic stuff like how to write a loop, things like that. And after that, with the passions that I have, and also with the syllabus that we have, I was able to follow the courses where I did with related to web development as well as hardware development. But I thought when I was having the opportunity to choose the industry or what's the company that I'm going to choose, I think the best place for me to get the experience, the first job would be Cisco Labs. Adding to that, actually, I have to mention in here, usually in our university, when we are getting the jobs, we get the opportunity, or we will be hired by companies 2 or 3 months before we are going to sit for the final exams. But under the current situation, the things have changed dramatically, and until I was sitting for my finals, I didn't have a job, and I was really stressed with that, because that's not the usual case in our university. And for the career fair, even a lot of the companies couldn't participate because everyone is trying these days, and the companies have less, or like the potential for the companies to hire the fresh graduates is low under these trying times. But during my final exams itself, I had another exam coming tomorrow, and I had to do an interview online. The final interview that I had to do with Cisco Labs was just the day before my final exam. And I think the experience that I'm getting right now from the industry, from Cisco Labs, is really great, because I am being exposed to like the tech stack that they're using at their company is really really good, and I can cope up the knowledge that I gained from the fundamentals at the university and adapt to that situation, adapt to that environment, and use my knowledge. Because at the university level, like when we were studying, we didn't get the exposure to cloud technologies, because at that time, actually, during the second year and third year, they were not that much of like, we didn't have the chance to learn them. But as we go to the industry, with the exposure, with what we have learned during our university life, we were able to manage, we were able to give our best, we were able to design, like I'm able to design the architectures of different things that we are different projects that I get with that basic knowledge. So I think being a fresh graduate, that's the area, like that's why I chose Cisco Labs as my industrial first job of mine in the industry.
Oh, okay, thank you, Chathurangi. Now I would like to direct this question straight away to Ahesh, Mr. Ahesh. Now, during an interview and before an interview, when you screen the application, what are the particular things that you are so specific about when you see an application, a CV received from an undergraduate?
All right, so that is something that I every day doing. So first of all, this answer is not specific to Wiley, right? So even when I was in Cisco Labs, so I did a couple of interviews, and that's the same thing. I think most of the industry, hiring managers are doing, right? So first of all, what we are looking for is how the CV is structured, right? So how do you, this is the first impression, because we haven't met this candidate, we haven't heard from this candidate, we haven't seen whatever that candidate has been done, right? We only see what he has written about himself or herself, right? So the thing that you all want to understand here is how are you going to structure your CV? How are you going to organize it? What you want to tell us first, right? So that order, right? And then how have you thought about, these are the things that you want to first say about the person, and then these are the things that I want to say second, and these are the things that I want to just highlight, but I don't want to talk about them like much, something like that. So that same feeling we can get by reading the CV, right? So let's say, for example, if you are very good at Java, so when you in your technical skills set, Java will be in the top, right? But if maybe you have heard about Python, but you haven't done anything, maybe that will be in the last. But there's a programming language called Python, something like that, right? So that's the same feeling that we are also getting by looking at the CV, right? So one thing I wanted to highlight here is look at your CV multiple times, couple of times before you send it, whether the spellings are right? So because especially when it comes to technical jargons, like for example, my technical terms, MySQL, it would be a PHP, it could be Ajax, jQuery, JavaScript, TypeScript, whatever, right? So there's a standard way of writing it out, right? So most of the people just type it as they say it, but that shouldn't be the case, right? Because the people that who will be shortlisting or who will be looking at your CV are the people that in the current industry, right? So they are kind of know about what they are doing. So that is why you are sending your CV to them to review it and maybe call for you. So in that case, please make sure that you write. You put whatever that you want to put in the CV in the right format, right? That should be, the spelling has to be right, and then the structure as well as the order. I think order plays a key role here, right? So let's say, for example, most of the people that in this audience is we are expecting who are going to pass out the university and then who will be applying for jobs in the next couple of months, right? So in that case, you need to, your personal details, whatever the extra activities that you are doing, you have done. So whatever the maybe volunteer activities or whatever the prizes that you won, or maybe whatever the certificates that you have done, so those things also can be there. You can talk about them, you can show up them, but at the same time you need to understand about what order. Let's say, for example, you are applying for a Java developer, right? So in that case, the company who is going to employ you, so they have advertised in the job description saying that, okay, we will be looking at candidates who have an engineering degree and then we'll be looking at candidates who have 6 months of internship period done, and then maybe they have done some Java projects, something like that. So you can't have one CV, right? Having one CV and then apply for different positions. Don't do that mistake, right? So that's most of the people doing that, right? So they make a one CV, right? And then if they have like 10 positions, 10 companies, they just apply. So that doesn't gonna work out, right? So read through the job description and then try to understand what they have asked for, right? What are the things that they'll be looking. So it is basically the job description, right? So if I want to hire one person to one of my teams, right? And then if I have a set particular requirements, based on that only I create my job description, right? So I need 1 year experience Java developers. That's it. Let's say, for example. So in that case, I don't want to look at the CV and then go through like 2 pages to find out whether this guy has done Java or not. Simple as that, right? Very simple fact, right? If I'm looking for a Java developer in my team, right? And then if I have clearly advertised this in my job description saying that I'm looking for a fresh graduate who has done some Java experience, I don't simply want to go through your entire CV to find out whether you have done Java project or not. It has to be in the order, right? Top order. It has to be in the list. So looking at that, I can understand, okay, so this guy has done some Java. Okay, then what else he has done? So those are the things that comes under next, right? So those are the second priority. So maybe that person has done some lot of other extracurricular activities. Maybe he has done some showed up some leadership skills. So that is fine, totally fine. And then we will give some score to them as well. But at the same time, the first, right? Let's say I have got 100 CVs and then I want to shortlist 10, and then only for those 10 I'm going to call, right? So in that case, whoever comes to that 10, the list of 10 is whoever the people have organized their CV in the right order that the hiring manager is looking at. I think you're all clear about that point. So that's how the key points. After that, you can organize the rest of the.
Can I? Hello.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah, I just want to
yes,
add
Dr.
to what 𝗫𝐵 was saying. In fact, not really add. I hope everyone was clear about what he was saying, right? Say, you can put your degree, and he was saying you can put the extracurricular activities, you can put your projects in the CV and so on, right? So as undergraduates, I really sort of request you to remember those words. In the CV, you need to put these things. Right, so you need to have done some projects, you need to have done some extracurricular activities. So all that would add to your character, right? So don't wait until your final year when you try to write the CV. You'll figure out, okay, I haven't done anything, right? So don't do that. Plan your undergraduate career. I think Chathurangi will also be able to add something to this. Make sure that you have things to put in your CV. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. It's not, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 𝗫𝐵. It's not so much about your A-level results. It's not so much about, you know,
exactly
what you did or the subject that you did. It's about whether you can prove your worth.
I think, yeah, that's very right, sir. Right. Thanks for reminding that. Like, let's say, for example, right? So those are very simple facts if you really think about it, right? So if a person is in university, so we know that that person has passed O levels and passed A levels, right? So that is how you got through this, right? So you don't have to prove that again, right? But what is most important is, as Dr. Alcado said, right? How did you spend your 4 years or 3 years in your university life, right? What did you do, right? So, I mean, if you take like 50 students coming out of a faculty, we know that by the time that they get the degree, so all 50 has passed all the exams, right? So that is not something that you need to, talk about. So, but if there's a person who has done the degree at the same time, maybe he has done a presidentship or whatever in maybe one of the organization, and then he has done some leadership thing. At the same time, he has done some extracurricular, maybe a couple of projects, right? Maybe he has involved in some volunteer activities. So those are the things that we can really, filter out that person, saying that, okay, this person, when it comes, if that person joins our team, right? If we have similar situation in the team also, this person has extra capacity, right? So that person can go extra mile not to have within the status quo, but he will challenge the status quo, right? And he will go to the next level, and then he will maybe deal with people like very strongly, right? And then if there are some even personal issues comes in, we can see that if that person has that potential in his, right? And then we know that okay, at that point maybe we can trust this person because he has done some similar things in the university, something like that, right? Those are the things matters the most, right? So you need to, as I said again, you need to order them properly, saying that you will be talking about your technical aspects, you will be talking about your academic qualifications and certifications and everything, and at the same time you can order them just to prove that okay, this is kind of a person that I was in my university, something like that. So thank you for highlighting that fact, Dr. Alcado.
Yeah, to add to the same point, as Dr. Alcado and I said, from our second year onwards, like right after we went into computer engineering, this is what Dr. Alcado was emphasizing us to, like everyone who is graduating in our class, everyone, they know that we have passed the exams and we have the basic knowledge about Java. So what are we going to brand ourselves? Like in the CV itself, we should have a branding to say that who we are and what we are capable of. So during the university life, of course, you get the chance to do the projects and engage in different activities. It's the matter of taking those chances, because as I will share my experience about Quiz Grand Challenge as well. So we have this hackathon competition organized in our university. So it is from our computer engineering association in our department, we organize a hackathon. For that, I had this idea where I put about this soil quality analyzer. After that, like I was looking into different kinds of opportunities where I could participate in, where I could add a value to my CV. Then I came across this competition, which is called Quiz Grand Challenge, and I applied for it. To be frank, actually, I applied for it because they said that for the finalists, they gave a chance to a full round trip to Manchester for 1 month. That's the reason actually I applied for it. Anyhow, like I was a finalist, finalist 6 of out of thousands of participants, and for my surprise even, I was able to secure the first place as well as the investment prize, which was for me to invest on my idea or for me to do higher studies. That was like a huge opportunity that I got because I took the chance in, because I saw that opportunity where I just randomly came across that, and because one of my friends sent that link and said, okay, this seems like something that you can apply to, just apply and see. Just taking that opportunity, I was able to create a brand and able to bring glory to our country itself. So there are chances like that if you actually see around you. You even like when you're doing a project, it can be something that you're just passionate about and you're doing it yourself. You can add it to your CV. You can say that I did something like this. You can see the GitHub link and have the full code in there, or a website even for a small shop, or even if you have developed it from like beginning to the end, that would be really worth it. And also you can take part in different kinds of sports, especially sports, because sports means that you have the capability of managing your academic activities as well as your sports and the extracurricular activities, and you have that leadership skills in you. And the extracurricular activities, as being a part of these associations like the IEEE Computer Society that you have in your campus as well, be a part of such kind of societies, because it adds a value to you. You have something to talk about and you have a chance to brand yourself through your CV. Because if it is, as Ahesh says, if he has 10 CVs he is looking at, before coming to those 10 CVs, you have to be in those 10 CVs. How we are going to make yourself be in these 10 CVs matters. So that's the place where you are going to have a brand, where you can prove yourself from the first sentence itself. You have something called profile, where you write in the CV how you can present yourself, how you can guide the person who is reading the CV. Like from my experience, actually, as I said, I had more than 20 folders where I would be applying for different companies based on the companies. Before I go to apply to a company, I do a research. What kind of tech stack are they expecting? What kind of experience I can put in my CV saying that, okay, this is what they're expecting and this project that I did, I should put it on top so that he would catch his eye, so that he wouldn't have to go through 2 pages to catch that I have done a project in this. So if you are going to apply to a software company, if the first project that you have is in data science, like he knows that you can do data science, but he have to look through to find that you have done some web development or software project in your undergraduate life. So build a brand, and that's the basic idea that I have to give. Basically, how to balance yourself during your undergraduate life.
Yeah. To sum up, what we have discussed so far, from Dr. Alkadua's point of view, it doesn't matter whether you're doing software engineering, cloud computing, data science, or whatever it is. Just pick something that you will enjoy doing every day, right? Because at the end of the day, you're just trying to create your future. You have to, every day when you wake up in the morning, you have to do something that you would like. So think about it, right? If you are in doubt, don't worry. Most of the programs that are available in universities, they give you first 2 years to try things out. They basically give you a chance to look at all the aspects that are available to you and then pick up a particular specialization. So that was the first point. Point number 2, be conscious about your CV. Make sure you have enough and ample things that are related to the job you are applying to put in your CV. And number 3, getting back to Chaturangi, what Chaturangi said, during your studies, whenever you see an opportunity, whenever you are given positions, grab them, perform there. Don't worry about the mistakes. We all are human beings. We have enough and ample time to correct ourselves. So grab the opportunities, work with teams, and create something that you can be proud of when you basically write your CV, so that you will basically develop self-confidence about yourself, so you are very fit to apply for a particular job. And I have another area that is popping up. Actually, many of our participants have also requested our panelists' idea about this. Some people are basically planning to start their own companies, startups, perhaps, because they have enough and adequate creativity, innovation, and different out of the box thinking. So for those type of people, what would be your recommendation? What are the best practices? What do you think should be the skill set? And how do you see them? How do you see their chances? So I would like to first direct this question to Dr. Alkadu, and then others also can give us their points of view. Dr. Alkadu?
Yeah, actually, startups, it's a very interesting area, and in fact, this is one of the areas where you can make an impact, right? So there are Sri Lankan companies who are doing really well, who are just startups, and then now they are doing a lot. Now, if you really think about it, I mean, I try to drive this into students. You have this thing called the US dream, right? So if you talk to a US undergraduate, their dream is to retire by 35, right? So by year, when you are 35 years old, you want to retire, right? So how do you do that? You build a company, you may build $1 million company, you sell it, or you make enough money to live the rest of your life, and after 35 you're not working, right? So whereas our ambition is slightly different. We want a job that gives you a pension as well, right? So work until you are 50 and then live off the pension. That's our plan. So don't be like that. Go for that American dream. Try to build a company, try to make the next Facebook, try to build the next big thing, and try to retire by 35. Right. So I think that is what I tell all the undergraduates. And in fact, your age is the best time to try it out as well. Right. Say when you are a fresh graduate, when you're in your undergraduate times, if you have a company, if you have an idea that might be turned into a startup, go for it, try it. Right. You don't have a family to feed. It's not a big thing. If you're successful, all good. If you're not successful, it's not a black mark on you. In fact, I think Ayesh can also add to this. It's not, companies will not look down on you, right? So they look at it as a good thing. In fact, even if you have tried and failed, they look at it as a good thing, because that adds more value to your CV. You have tried something out, right? And the other thing, it's actually a very nice time to do startups. If you go to 𝗂𝐵TA site, 𝗂𝐵TA, I think you know what 𝗂𝐵TA is. So there are about maybe 10, 12 organizations which are willing to help startups. Right. Say if you take, for instance, 𝐷𝗵𝐵𝗺𝗺𝗀, they have this, they call it the accelerator something. I can't remember the exact name, but basically they take startups under their wing, and they train you. Right. So they have some seasoned CEOs who have done startups before. They will come and share your experience. They have a group of very senior engineers who would come and help you with the operational aspects of the startup. I mean, the previous CEOs will deal with the idea, right? Whether it's a viable idea. And then this operational level, they will talk about how do I operationalize this? Your idea might be great, but how do I operationalize it, right? And then they have a panel of accountants, a panel of lawyers who will come and help you, and so on. So there's plenty of support, right? And even there's a lot of angel investors who are willing to sort of fund startups. In fact, Chathurangi was talking about it, right? So you were talking about a project that one of your friends did, and you got an investor from abroad, right? So likewise, there are enough and more opportunities in this particular field. So I honestly urge you to do it, right? So I mean, what we really need as a country, what we really need is couple of really big companies, and we'll be out of this economic mess, right? So just to give you just to put things into scale, 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀, 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀 is actually the CEO of Google. His net worth is his salary sometime back, it was advertised in the web, is about 199 million USD, right? And he has more money than what we need to pay in debt, right? So for this, in fact, I can't remember the exact year. For the first 3 months, we had to pay about, I think, if I remember correctly, something like 3.4 billion, and 𝗵𝗵𝗺𝗀 was worth about 3.2 billion, right? So he can sort of pay most of our debt. So what we really need as a country is really good startups, right? So one really good idea, and then we'll be as a country we'll be far better. So I urge all the undergraduates to try. Right. So there are enough and more examples where undergraduate projects, undergraduate ideas that you had, came out as successful startups. So I recommend that you do it, and there's plenty of support right now. It's a very good ecosystem for startups to try now. So that's it. I think Ayesh can also add, startups. If you have something in your CV, if a failed startup in the CV, would that be a problem?
Of course, I can actually add things of to the same topic, as Dr. Alcado said. So I think, I can give my example, right? Because I did the same thing back in 2014. At that point, I was working as a senior engineer for Cisco Labs. Actually, back in days, that was Cake Labs. They rebranded later on. So I actually stepped out from the company, saying that I wanted to try and start up, right? So that's the environment that we had there, right? So the company basically was, because Cake Labs previously 𝗵𝐵𝗺𝗺𝗀 when I joined that back in 2012. So it's again a startup, right? So that's the environment that we've been growing up, and then that's the things that we saw there, right? And then that's the experience that we had. So if one person in that company and comes and say to my boss, so I have got an idea and I think this product will really work out, so I want to go out and try it out. So then what he can say, right? So he actually my boss actually let me go out, right? So what he said was, I still remember that what he said was, if you are going for a different company in this country, maybe I'll come and negotiate, right? Maybe we can talk about this. But if you are going for a higher studies or a startups, right? So I won't stop you, because the same story, right? Even for higher studies, we never know where we will be ended up, right? So because you can be the next scientist, you can be the person that who discovered some new theory in the higher studies, right? So we never know, right? So the same story with the startup as well. You will be as 𝗂𝗏 said, you will build the next Facebook. We don't know, right? Maybe next LinkedIn or whatever kind of social media, or maybe totally different thing. We haven't even heard about it. Maybe we haven't heard. Maybe we haven't thought about it, right? So that's the same story. So I myself stepped out, right? And then I partnered with two of my friends. One is from Australia and one is from Sri Lanka. And then, we built a product. We had some money with us, and then we tried it so hard. There was a trip planned for me to go to Germany and then, present this to that client as well. But things didn't go as we expected, right? So that happens, So there were some issues when we were planning the stuff. So I don't want to explain all these reasons here, but that's what happened to me. So basically, we saw that after like 8 to 10 months, we saw that, okay, so now we will have to wait maybe like 1 more year to get to the next level, and then again go for the client pitch. So in that case, at that point, we didn't have enough money because we had our bills to pay. So then what did I do? I again talked to my boss, right? Because I knew, because I genuinely told him that I'm going to try out one of my product ideas. So give me the chance. And he gave me. So then at that point, I thought, okay, so maybe I talk to him again. Maybe he'll consider me, right? So the same thing happened. And then they hired me back to the for Cisco Labs, the 𝗂𝗏, sorry. So back in the days, that was 𝗂𝗏 Labs, yeah. That was in 2015. So if maybe people can think about, okay, so how did you come back to the same company, to the maybe same position or a different position because you left the company, right? So that is not the case, right? In this industry, in this startup culture, right? And then the people we come from startup culture, as well as promoting or encouraging people to do startups, as Dr. Alkadua did a while ago. So that environment really give you the same opportunity again, like multiple times, right? So even if I go back and ask, I want to go, maybe there can be questions, but at the same time that opportunity will be still there, right? So I think it's not only with that company, but most of the other companies will also do the same. If you are genuinely talk about it, and if you are showing that you are very passionate about it, and you have an idea, and you are going to do it, right, in this way or the other way, and then if you can prove yourself that, okay, you have this big idea, and then you want to try it out, I think that opportunity and then the chance will definitely come to you, right? Because it came to my life, and then I tried it out, and then I failed. It's totally fine, right? And then I again joined back, and then I started. I continued my career from that point onward, right? So that's. There are a lot of examples that you can refer from a lot of famous, more successful people in the world, right? So in that case also, you will realize that, okay, how is that opportunity is aligned, and how is the chance and the the opportunity in the environment that you are in, right? So that is something like that kind of industry that you are in, right? So it's very right industry, but what you need to build up is the right skill set, and pitch it to the right time, right? So that's the thing I want to highlight.
Okay, Ms. Chathurangi, do you have anything to add to that?
As I said at the very beginning of my introduction itself, it's the matter of doing what you like and getting the opportunity, as for my friend as well as for me, because I when I participate for the Coins Brand Challenge, I got the opportunity, or I got the investment prize to be invested in my higher studies or as a startup from the idea itself, from the idea I had, which I pitched for them at the Coins Grand Challenge. So it's the chance of like having the idea and taking it to the next level.
So what sort of support you got from your university for that type of an opportunity?
Yes, Johan, actually the support that we got from the university was incredible. Every time that we come up with an idea or a thing, or else that when we go to the university saying that we want to try this out, we want to get the chance to learn these things, they are always there. Like when I was like developing this system for this hackathon competition, as well as for the just a matter of time, just going to the lecturers and just asking for them, because they're always there to help us and guide us, and just to tell that this is what you need to do, this is what you need to follow, and this is how you can get it. They're always there to guide us. Like Dr. Al-Kadua, he was there even to make the pitch. This is how you can pitch. This is the audience that you have. This is how you can pitch. He was there to help us. The help that you get from the university, not just the university actually, if you just look, as Dr. Al-Kadua said, like the people who are willing to have the startups as well as the ideas of the undergraduates and the freshers, there are a lot of opportunities. It's just a matter of taking them.
Okay, Dr. Al-Kadua, I am directing this question to you. It's actually a continuation from our last question. Now, what are the key attributes of a university, as you see, to promote a culture of entrepreneurship among the students, particularly the undergraduates?
Point of view, the university needs to play two roles. Now, one thing is when it comes to a startup, it is not always about the technology. It's about solving a burning problem, right? So, sometime back there was this joke on Facebook where you have a hanging stone, and then they call it the weather prediction system, and it says when the rock is wet, it's raining. When you have something white on top, that's snowing, and so on. I like it because it works, right? I mean, if you want to know what the outside weather is, doing that will work, right? So it's not high tech, but it works, right? So that is what people want. When they have a problem, they need a solution for it, right? So as undergraduates, what we always do is we tend to look at it from a technological point of view. In fact, when I was going through the type of questions that are posted, always you get on with the technologies, right? Which is kind of like, it's not the case when it comes to doing a startup. It's about solving a problem, right? The way you solve the problem might be a very low tech thing, but solving the problem is what matters. So in terms of giving the support, now the biggest problem that most of these students have is, once you have an idea, what do I do next? Right? So should I develop this idea? Should I develop a prototype? Should I take this to a potential investor? Should I go to the market? And even things like, say, what do you call, like legal issues. For instance, during this COVID time, one of our students, they actually developed a remote patient monitoring system. And one of the questions that they were asking was, what will happen if our system fails and a patient dies? Right? So will they sue us?
Okay.
Right? Likewise, you have a lot of other things. So the universities can help the students figure these things out. In fact, most of the universities do have their own sort of incubation things. Even inside SLTC, we do have one in connection with STASCOM, where the students can come to the uni, this particular incubation center, and they can ask these questions. This is my idea. Is it worth? Should I develop it further? Should I go look for an investor? So these questions the university can answer for you, right? In fact, you might need different people from different sides, maybe some people from the management, right? So having different faculty also helps in that aspect. So most of the universities do have these incubation centers inside, where the student can go, tell that they have an idea, and the university will help the student to sort of vet the idea, to polish the idea, and to develop that into a final product, and even find investors. The universities will help, and usually you have lot of other government and non-governmental organizations that could help the students. So the university can sort of guide you in that process. I think most of the universities in Sri Lanka, they have these incubation cells right now set up. Yeah, that's what I had to say.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Al-Kadua. Yeah. Also, we are getting a lot of questions through our online link. I'm sorry, I don't have ample time to pick everything up, but I will just randomly pick one or two from here and there. Many of our students, participants are particular about the particular skill set. Particularly if they are looking for a software engineering or computer engineering degree. First of all, they would like to see the difference between the two engineering sides. For example, so the difference between software engineering and difference between computer engineering. And then they would like to know particular skill sets that they need to possess in order to achieve or rather to be ready for these job positions. Would you like to add something to that, Dr. Al-Kadua? And then we can move on to Mr. Ahesh and we can...
Yeah, so I think that's actually a very nice, so these words are in fact misused. But if you really want to go to the technical definitions of these words, there's a nice definition given by 𝗖𝗵𝐵 sometime back, few years back. 𝗖𝗵𝐵 and ACN, one of the leading institutes governing this IT field, they got together and they define what does it mean by saying computer engineering, what does it mean by saying computer science, what does it mean when the degree is IT, what does it mean? Right, so those definitions are there, but basically just to give you kind of an idea about what it is. Say when you're talking about IT, it's about the application, right? You already have well-established technologies and you just want to use it, right? So that's the idea of IT. It's a technological aspect of it. And then when you talk about computer science, it's about the science, right?
Okay.
The example that I take is say biology. If you want to if you want to do a surgery, say you are doing a bypass surgery, like cutting someone's heart, you need to know how the heart works, right? You need to know the science, right? So that's the science. How does the heart work? How does it pump the blood and all that you need to know. Now, knowing that alone is not sufficient to do the surgery, right? So that's the engineering aspect of it. You need to learn a little bit more of it as well. Say, how do you do the surgery, right? The other set of skills. How do you make that incision? How do you cut and how do you open the chest cavity, right? So all that comes in, right? So that's the engineering aspect of it, right? So this applies to anything. I mean, the science and the engineering, that's the idea. So the science will talk about how it works and the mathematics behind it and so on. And then the engineering will talk about how do you build it, right? How do you actually create it, right? So let me give you another small example. Sometime back I was doing a data science project, and I had a student who graduated from the science faculty, and he had very nice algorithms, right? So you had the data and we wanted to do some look at similarities. It was basically to do with some stock exchange kind of thing. We want to look at some pump and dump, something bad that is happening in stock exchanges. So he had nice algorithms, right? So that's the science of it. And the engineering part of it was we wanted to implement the actual program and get this running, and we failed miserably because the data set had about 4 billion records, right? So you could, that takes another level, right? So that's what engineering is about. So the in terms of the skill set, so if you want to do the actual engineering, so coming back to this problem, you need to, if it is about computer engineering, you will need to learn the full stack, not just how to write a software, but how does it run on top of a CPU, right? How does the registers work? How does the memory caches work? And what does it do to the performance? right? So if you're talking about just software engineering, it's writing the software, and if it is IT, then it's about using the software already being developed, right? So that's my view on it. And however, if you look at the industry, and these words are interchangeably used, right? Say people don't say, okay, I'm a software engineer and I don't really touch that part. It's becoming you need to have a kind of a overall holistic view of everything, right? They talk about this T-shaped professional now. You need to have a very broad base, and you need to have you have to learn something very deep. That's the kind of the stem in the T. And then you have to have a very wide base as well, where you know a lot of other things as well, right? So that's the kind of professional that people are looking at right now. So that's
yeah.
So,
Yeah, Mr. Ahesh.
Yeah, I would like to add small things to the same idea. I mean, probably I think Dr. 𝗂𝐻 very rightly and very nicely summed up everything that I also wanted to talk about in this aspect. But maybe I will put different words, right? But eventually it will be the same idea. So he nicely explained about how science and engineering different, right? So that's really, and the example and everything was perfect. So that's the same thing that I wanted to tell in the previous round also about data science and data engineering, right? When we are actually interviewing, when we are evaluating a person, the candidate, but we will really look at it, how they are going to solve that problem, right? So, but most of the time, like fresh graduates and everybody, they will think about, okay, if I am going to code, right? If I am going to develop a software, right? What is the problem that I have to solve, right? So, that I think that concern can be there with everybody, right? So I think Dr. 𝗂𝐻 gave an example to that as well, right? Let's say, for example, you are building an API or maybe a small web application. There's a database on cloud, right? And then you want to talk to that database and then get some data, right? So and then you will maybe list down in a table in your web page. Very simple application, right? So a very average thinker would think like, okay, if I have the technology, maybe JavaScript, and I have the web page, okay, I can build it up, and then I can create a client to call to the database. There can be a connection established, and then through that connection, this data will come here, and then once you have the data, you can loop it up and then show it up in a table, right? So very easy task, right? But what will happen to the same application when you have like millions of records in the database, right? So that's one example. What will happen when you don't have that much of data, but when you have a very weak internet connection, right? So then what will happen? Maybe when you have like millions of records and then your machine is processing it, right? And then what will happen to your browser then? End of the day, whether will get stuck, or will you be able to see the same look and feel that you have when you have 10 records with the when you at the same time when you have like 10 million records? Will it be the same experience when you have a strong connection and when you have a very weak connection? Will it be the same experience, right? And when you run on the same application on the Linux box and when you run that on the Windows box, will it be the same? Or a MacBook, will it be the same? So those are the practical problems that you have, because once your application is in production and once that is open to users, right, the customers, you can't control them, right? They can maybe they can load the same application in their mobile. Then the mobile gets heating up, right? Because it's processing that the mobile doesn't have a processing power that your machine has. So in that case, maybe that gets heat up, and then you don't know what will happen. Then customer complaints. So those are the actual and practical problems that you are having when it comes to software engineering, right? So that is why we are saying you need to have the fundamentals, right? So as Dr. 𝗂𝐻 also mentioned, you need to know how CPU works, right? How registers works, and you need to know, what are the theories that was there. At the same time, if you have this situation, then what will happen, right? If you have that situation, then what will happen? For you to go to that, you need to have the fundamentals with you. Then you can basically, think about, okay, if it worked for 10 records, okay, this is how it worked, right? And then when the data set is getting higher and higher, okay, now how that impacts your maybe CPU, right? How that impacts your RAM, how that impacts your processor. something like that. So that is how basically engineers solve problem than scientists, right? Scientists will always, talk about the theories, and of course they will say, right? Of course they will say, when you have a small data set, this is the behavior, and then when you have a large data set, this is the behavior, right? They can talk about different sample sizes, but when they are varying, right? When the sample sizes are also varying with different other aspects, right? Along with that other aspects, then that's the real engineering comes into the play, right? So that is where you need to have your fundamentals right with you, and you need to understand the core concepts in engineering, so that you can simply critically analyze each and every aspect, and then see, okay, where it is getting failed or where it is getting stuck, right? Okay, what part that we need to improve, or what when it comes to performance, okay, whether we need to increase the RAM or the memory or the CPU power or the hard disk, whatever, the machine size or whatever, right? So that maybe a network speed, network bandwidth and all. So those for you to come to that decisions, you need to understand the base, the fresh graduates, what we are looking for, right? Because as I said earlier, even in the first round, right, we can't expect them to have all experience, right? There can, I mean, if it's the lateral hire, there can be a person who has a 5 years of experience, dealing with large data set. Then when we have this problem, he easily can go to the solution, because he has done it like multiple times in his last 5 years, right? But from a fresher, we can't expect that. So in that point, we need to the fresher has to understand the basics, and then to go to the the solution by understanding the root cause, and then giving the resolution to the root cause. That is why we are looking for the basics.
Okay. Thank you. And I would like to now turn to Ms. Chathurangi. Now, sorry, these two questions are going to be the last two questions for the day. And the first question, one of our participants asked, what do you think about the best programming language? What do you think is the best programming language? I mean, you can give very open answer for that. What do you really think about your perspective?
Okay, adding to what the previous questions itself, like as Dr. Alkadua as well as Ahesh said, we need to know the fundamentals. So like, just to add to that question itself, like you wouldn't understand, like when you're trying to choose a course, what you're going to follow for the next 4 years, or what you're going to do for the rest of your career. Like if you might not understand of all of the things that they have listed down, saying that once you follow this course, this is the exposure that you're getting. Like they the content of the operating systems, and they might be talking about different kinds of things, the networking, but at the end of the day, as Mr. Ahesh said, you need to have the core knowledge, or the at least a good understanding about how these things are interconnected and how they are working together. Like if you are just going to the software, just to be a software engineering, just having the knowledge of writing a code and getting it up and running, that won't be enough once you face these questions. Like you need to know how a thread works, how we can have the networking, how we can overcome these networking issues, as Mr. Ahesh said. For that, you need to know those fundamentals. So if you can like pick up a course where you could get all these exposures, that would be the best. And to give the answer to the next question, actually, I really don't think that there's a language that there's a best called language. Whatever the language is actually good, but you need to know a language where you know to the core, where you know everything about that language, how it would work. Especially it would be good if it is a very basic language like C language, where you know how this loop works, how this thread works, like where you could get to the CPU or the operating system itself, and you can know the functionality of itself, rather than knowing a high-end in programming language. If you have a language or the idea about a language which is more closer to the operating system, that would be really good for your career path, as of my opinion. But I don't think that there's a specific answer to saying that what would be the best language. Yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah. Can you at the same time add to our final question? How do you see the ICT industry, ICT and computing industry in another 5 years' time in Sri Lanka? How do you see? What's your perspective?
Yeah, as a
fresh graduate.
Okay, as Aisha was talking earlier itself, like we cannot specifically predict that this would be the idea or that this would be the way that it would be in the next 5 years. Like under this pandemic situation, we would know what or where the world would go under this situation. So we have to be open to everything. Like so if you just go Google the top demanding jobs right now, they are on the top of it. There would be data science, there would be software engineering, but in a matter of like 1 year this would change. But the IT industry is a booming industry where there can be a lot of opportunities. So knowing the fundamentals, I think you can be ready to face whatever that you're going to have in the next 5 years.
So that's your take-home message for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Ahesh.
Okay, so I think Ms. Chaturangi actually explained really well the last two questions. Maybe I'll also add a couple of things there. So when it comes to, someone is asking what is the best programming language, to be honest, that question itself is wrong, right? Because we are not talking about there's only one thing to do and then we have 10 languages. In that case, we can talk about what will be best for this, right? So that question has to be corrected as this. It has to be corrected as what is the best language for do this, right? What is the best language to do that? In that context, we can simply go for that, right? Because there are a lot of programming languages. If you give me the context, we can, comparatively, we can go for a best option. There can be a couple of best options as well, but at the same time, maybe, depending on your interest, maybe there can be best option. But what is the best programming language? I'm not surprised to have that question in this forum, because I have got this similar questions most of these fresh graduate students forums. So because that is their question, right? That is their question. That is what they are thinking about it. That is their thinking pattern. So we don't have any issue with that. So that is very understandable. But what I'm saying is, what I want to highlight here is you at the same time, you need to think of the context that you are going to apply, right? If it is a programming, if it is a mobile development, right? If it is, let's say, for example, if you have an iPhone, and then if someone else has an Android phone, right? Can if they come to an argument saying that, okay, what is the best phone? You can't argue, right? You can't come to final answer, because if the Android OS can provide all the application and all the facilities that the person needs, right? Then that is the best option for him, right? If the other person is using iPhone for maybe taking photo or whatever, and then if he's satisfied with all the functionality that it has, then that is the best phone for him, right? So that's the same thing with programming languages as well. If you are doing a web application and then you have selected a language, and then whatever the feature that you want to apply, you want to add into your application, if that particular language has the capability of adding that is the best option for you, right? You don't have to think about any other languages. That is how it works, right? It always going coupled with the context, right? So you will have to talk about, these are the things that I need to do, and then for that, what would be the best? So that is the answer for that. And then I think for the next question, maybe I answered up to some extent, saying that
what is your take-home message for all of us?
Right. Yeah, that's where I was coming to, right? So it's the same answer that I gave for the next question. It's basically, the industry in next 2 to 3 years or 5 years of time would be, I think, most realistic answer would be, it will be like this today, right? So because if you really think about 5 years back, right, we didn't think about the IT industry or software industry will be at this point, right? Would be at this point. So that was happened in the 5 years time. So I think that will be the same thing in the next 5 years as well, because this industry is evolving, and the people who are working in the industry and who are creating things will be very innovative, and then they will take that industry to a level in 5 years time, but at the same time all the engineers and developers, software engineers will also be in the same level, right? So I mean, there will not be a difference from an engineer at that point and the industry, right? Because we are the people who driving it, right? We are the people who creating things. We are the people who driving that industry to next level. So in that case, even in 5 years time, we will also be there doing the things that is there, and then the industry will also be in the same place. So my take home message that I would like to share with everybody who joined this session is, get back to your basics, right? Get back to your fundamentals, learn the concepts, core concepts, your course structure and everything, course materials have been designed for you to get to that knowledge, because most experienced, lecturers, a panel of lecturers have been decided it, because they have seen how industry works out, and then they have seen, how this industry is evolving. So stick to that content, and then, get the right fundamentals with strong knowledge, so that, and plan for your area of passionating, right? What is your interested area? What is you are passionate about most? So plan for it. It could be web development, it could be mobile development, network engineering, security aspects, whatever it is. If you are passionate about it, just go for it. Whether it could be a startup, whether it could be a more established company, don't worry, just go for it. And then, plan for your dream and then work for your dream. Then you will be successful in the IT or any other industry in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahesh. Dr. 𝐴𝐿 𝗏𝗂𝗏.
Yeah, actually, regarding this programming language question, I think I also have had this many a times. So I would like to ask a small question. Sorry for I apologize for anyone who doesn't understand Sinhalese. How do you ask this question in English, right? So the question that I'm going to ask in Sinhala, how do you ask it in English? ඝෝටාභය රාජපක්ෂ ලංකාවේ කීවෙනි විධායක ජනාධිපතිද? So take a minute and think about how do you answer that in English. How do you ask this question in English? Right, so you'll find out that it's not that easy to ask it in English, right? So that is the idea of a language. So different languages have different levels of expressiveness. So when it comes to programming language, it's the same thing. You can, for example, if you want to do like write, say something like a device driver, then there are a set of languages that are good for that, right? But if you want to do something else, then there's another set of languages, because they are developed for that particular purpose. So they are good for that, right? So comparison between languages, asking which one is the best, it's not a fair question to start off with. And the other thing, if you really look at, if you take the classification of these programming languages, you mainly have 3 types of different languages, right? So you have what are called procedural languages, where you have to write everything, tell, how things should be done, right? Say languages like C and even Java falls under that category. Of course, OOP is sort of a subcategory there. And then you have what are called declarative languages like MySQL. So you don't really say how things should be done. You write what should be the case, right? You say, get me names where something is equal to this, right? So you're not saying how to do it, right? And then you have what are called functional programming languages, which sort of do like, you don't have side effects, right? So I'm not going to go into details of that. So all the languages that are out there will fall into one of these 3 categories, right? So if you learn one in one of these baskets, you can master anything else in that same basket, right? Give it, a couple of weeks. If you know, say C, give it a couple of weeks, you can learn, say Python, right? So that I guarantee. If you know C well, right? So throughout in your undergraduate career, I recommend that you learn at least one language from these 3 baskets. Then you'll be confident to use any language that can be thrown at you, right? Of course, it'll take a couple of weeks for you to, adjust yourself. It would depend on what you want to do, like that question that I asked. In certain languages, it's easy to ask. It's easy to get something done. In some other language, it's difficult to do, right? And the last point that I want to maybe highlight again is this idea of we always talked about these fundamentals, right? So I want to make it a little bit more concrete as to what we mean by these fundamentals, right? For example, think about something like, you have what are called hash maps, right? I hope you know what a hash map is. So a hash map, it's kind of, given a key, it will map it to a value, right? So that's a concept, right? And you have hash maps in Java, you have hash maps in Python, and so on, right? So what you really need to do is you need to understand what a hash map do and where you can use a hash map. When you're developing a program, where can I use a hash map? And how does the performance of the hash map changes? When I add more and more elements, how does it change, right? Now, of course, the way you declare a hash map in Java would be different to the way you declare a hash map in Python, but they are still hash maps. Got it? So that's what we mean by fundamentals. Understand the hash map, the concept of a hash map, how it behaves, how it can be used in a software. Right? And then whatever the language that can be thrown at you, you will understand how to implement it in that particular language. Right? So it's just a matter of sort of changing the kind of, the sort of the mode, right? So that's what I wanted to highlight, this, what we always talk about fundamentals. I just wanted to highlight what we mean by that, right? So knowing about the hash maps is what we mean as knowing fundamentals. Yeah. So that's actually my final comment. And I think in terms of where the industry is heading, we'll have a very booming industry.
Yeah.
And definitely there'll be a lot of interesting work to do, and be ready for it.
So that's your take-home message. Thank you very much, Dr. 𝐴ල්කඩුව. And I would like to thank again Ms. Chathurangi, Mr. Ahesh, and Dr. 𝐴ල්කඩුව for being such a wonderful resource personnel for us. For all of us, the participants and myself and all the organizers, this session has been one of those very, very resourceful sessions for us. Even though we were not able to go through all the questions that have been coming through, but we were able to basically categorize them into certain categories, and then basically give a general idea about each category. So now I would like to hand over the session to Mr. Thamira to continue with the rest of the concluding remarks and the rest of the things. Thank you very much.
So thank you, sir. Good evening to all. I am ථාමීර ලහිරු, the co-chairman of CodeGenix panel discussion. I am deeply honored to have the Dr. Mr. 𝐼𝐓 and Ms. Chathurangi in the panel discussion, who dissipate their busy schedule and unknown site in the IT world. My heartfelt thanks to the senior lecturer of Sri Lanka Technological Campus, Mr. 𝗂𝗵𝗺𝗵𝗺𝗃, for your valuable contribution. I also thank you all, the members of our organizing committee, for ensuring interest in covering the event, and to all hard workers who have worked behind the screen to make this success. Last but not least, thank you all for the participation who are present here today. I invite you all to join in all the projects that will be taken place throughout this CodeGenix month. So before the end, I would like to invite you all to turn on your camera. So let's take a group photo. So please turn on your camera. So I will give a count, and so technical teams to take the screenshots. So okay, guys, let's take 3, 2, 1. So okay, thank you for joining us today. So So thank you all for participating, being here to success this event, and thank you for all our resource persons today's discussion who are participated in. Shall we wrap up the sessions today? So stay with us and stay with month of CodeGenix. So we have so many projects in upcoming. Before we wind up the sessions, I would like to remind, stay safe and stay here safe in your homes. Good night. Have a happy day. Thank you.